out of the domestic U.S. political.
Oh, hey, what's up?
But
Internet.
most of the comments that we've heard down here have been.
Hey, let's turn this lady down. So there's NPR Begathon going on right now. So this video might be me ranting or something. There's I drank too much coffee, so if I seem jittery or whatever, it's because I just had a giant cup of coffee. Probably not good to drink that much coffee mid-afternoon, afternoonish. Not mid-afternoon. It's afternoon. It's way afternoon. It's about 6 hours after the noon. So that was probably a dumb idea by my part to drink that much coffee. I feel jittery. I might have problems sleeping tonight. Who knows? But this is the commute, the Miami commute. We're going home now. Let's check in with this NPR people, see how much money they need.
To fundamentally change the industry. It's estimated that 22 million Americans need help with substance abuse. Deborah Becker from member station WBUR reports on the huge private equity investment behind 8 new facilities in the Northeast.
The newly formed for-profit company, Recovery Centers of America, or RCA, says it plans to become the nation's largest addiction treatment provider. Its first steps toward that involve building these 8 new centers, the largest of which is under construction in Danvers, a town just north of Boston.
I'm Brad Greenstein, CEO of Recovery Centers of America Danvers facility.
So right now we're walking through a building that's really been completely gutted.
We demolished 140,000 square feet of interior, and we're starting from scratch.
Greenstein says this center will resemble a boutique hotel and will provide inpatient and outpatient treatment, medication-assisted treatment, and will follow its patients through the initial stages of recovery. Although RCA eventually plans to build other facilities that will accept those using public insurance, this center will accept only privately insured patients or those who pay out of pocket. A population Greenstein says is now underserved.
What we found, not just in Massachusetts, but nationwide, is this lack of availability for just your average, everyday individual who's been dutifully paying their insurance premium. Those are the ones that are generally having a hard time accessing care.
Much of the funding for these centers comes from what some say is the largest private equity investment ever in addiction treatment, a $231 million commitment from the New York private equity firm Deerfield Management. Leslie Henshaw, a partner at Deerfield, says treatment is generating investor interest for several reasons, namely laws requiring insurers to pay for it and the Affordable Care Act allowing young people to stay on their parents' health insurance until age 26. Henshaw says more investment will ultimately result in better care.
It's an industry that to date has had very little accountability with regard to delivering on effective outcomes. And so, we see both an enormous need and an imperative to change the model in which care is delivered.
Barbara Herbert is president of the Massachusetts chapter of the American Society for Addiction Medicine.
I sort of have that sense of vultures overhead who see a great opportunity to make money, but not necessarily in the best interest of my patients.
She also says that right now there are no agreed-upon minimum standards for what treatment should be. But Herbert says the metrics that investors use to measure success are often based on profits, which could mean that the more people there are in treatment, the more it's considered a success.
I think the biggest metric that you need to open a new facility is having it fully paid for. I'm not saying people are that cynical, but I'm not saying that outcomes necessarily drive investment in this circumstance.
But some longtime Massachusetts treatment providers say if someone has the insurance or the money, they should use it, and that could free up beds for more patients. Boston University public health professor David Rosenblum says this new growth in treatment may not only improve...
All right, that's just in, I guess, rehab. It looks like there's a lot of traffic. Kind of regretting taking the Palmetto Expressway at this point. But we're in it to win it. So let's just ride this out, see where it takes us, how long it takes us, and hopefully it's a good little ride, good little adventure. I'm starting to feel a little in acid from drinking so much coffee. But let's get back to the news.
Chinese was the song that we sung, while the mapo could burn through your tongue. Then when Shanghainese got in the loop, we slurped dumplings whose insides were soup.
But what was meant as a satire of foodies has given Trillin a taste of cultural controversy. Here's NPR's Andrew Limbong with the story.
The poem's called Have They Run Out of Provinces Yet? It's about how the geographic universe of Chinese food in America has grown from the familiar Cantonese and Szechuan to other less familiar provinces. Here's more of Trillin reading the poem.
Now as each brand new province appears, it brings tension, increasing our fears. Could a place we extol as a fine be revealed as one province behind? So we sometimes do miss, I confess, simple days of chow mein but no stress.
The major feeling I was getting from people was exasperation. Like, can you believe this is happening again?
This is Timothy Yu. He's an associate professor of English and Asian American Studies at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He says he understands what Trillin was going for, getting at foodies obsessed with trying to find the new thing.
What's bothersome to a lot of Asian American readers about it is not the satire. It's the fact that Chinese things were kind of being used as the punchline or the prop.
And for you and other critics, it just reminded them of all the times when their culture was embraced in America, but the people, not so much. He wrote a parody of Trillin's poem called Have They Run Out of White Poems Yet? That lays that out.
So that's maybe where I should begin. When my family arrived from Fujian, the country they found was now eager for Chinese food, but not its people. We're now just a dish on the menu for gourmets to sink their teeth into.
Let's put aside the controversy over the language for a second, because some people might see the point Trillin was making about the varieties of food. Jennifer A. Lee is a food writer, author of the book The Fortune Cookie Chronicles, which looks at Chinese food and Chinese immigration in America. She says that as more immigrants come
I don't know if that caught on camera, but there's a guy doing wheelies.
Food will grow. And as a food writer herself,
yep, probably not. I'm looking at the ankle.
I can appreciate the larger point of...
This guy ahead of us, he was doing wheelies. He's doing it now. He's doing... Up there he goes. There he goes, doing the wheelie.
And Trillin does know his stuff.
Get it, boy. Get it.
About the Chinese chef Peter Chang. He's got a book about...
He's still doing the wheelie. What did he show off?
Trillin himself wasn't available for comment, but a press person for the New Yorker pointed out that Trillin met no offense.
I can't see him anymore, but he's probably still doing a wheelie.
And wrote a similar poem about French food back in 2003. And that wasn't meant as a put down of the French. Andrew Limbong, NPR News.
He's still going. He's still doing a bubble. Oh, he had to get down. Car in front of him. Let's go too slow. I totally missed that intro thing. I'm sure it's copywritten somehow.
Works to power modern by combining data and analytics with technology and expertise. Learn more at Optum.com. From CFP, Certified Financial Planner Professionals, committed to helping people reach their financial goals. From saving for college to planning for retirement. More at letsmakeaplan.org. And from the National Endowment for the Arts. Art works.
We're funded by WLRN members and by the new Memorial Breast Cancer Center, dedicated to delivering innovative, life-saving care for the next generation of breast cancer survivors. Memorial's
it looks like the traffic, let's turn this down, we don't need to listen to commercials anyways. It looks like the traffic's just as bad going northbound as well. Well, not just as, it's more congested actually. least going about 55 miles an hour. That is the speed limit, so I'm going to do a couple sneezes because dust. Oh, it went away. That's the worst feeling. Right on the tip of your sneeze is almost there, but then it goes away. Alright. Now we're doing above the speed limit, which is good. Get home a little quicker, maybe. Or not, whichever. Today is April still April. I made a video a couple days ago. I put it out there in the universe. Making this video. Put it out there for the people. Been updating my LinkedIn. If I've added you on LinkedIn, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Thanks for connecting with me. So, yeah, well, I guess I never really cared about LinkedIn before, but like, I don't know. You can make some good business connects and like learn some good trade secrets, I guess, maybe. Have people endorse you. Say, hey, yeah, I know that guy's work. It's pretty good, or not good at all. Either way, yeah, it's not the best social media, but it's pretty good. Pretty good for the business world, anyways. Some of it's a bit confusing, like the posts and publications. And what goes into people's feeds and what doesn't. It's kind of confusing, but whatever. One thing I don't like about LinkedIn is you do have to put, like if you're serious, looking for jobs and all that, you do have to put a bit of information that most people aren't comfortable with. So I recommend if you are on LinkedIn or one of those sites like that, what's another one? Monster, or one of those, you know, work websites. You got a lot of personal information. I recommend getting, I'm not endorsed or sponsored by Life Alert, but it might help you in some headaches down the road as far as identity theft and all that stuff. I'm connecting with YouTube creators mostly. Yeah. I guess you gotta rub elbows if you want successful YouTube nowadays. So I'm trying to do that. Successful. What is success when it comes to YouTube? I don't know. 8 jillion views? No, because you can still be broke and have a jillion views. That doesn't really matter. I guess being able to feed yourself off of it would be pretty successful in my book, I guess. But let's check in with the news and see how they're doing the thing. I thought there was another Papa Wheelie. He's not doing the Papa Wheelies.
Involved with that Amtrak $500 gift card drawing. 8 minutes to get involved with that.
Okay, so this is the begathon that's going on. Let's turn that down. So basically they want money to do their job. If they just had advertisements, they would need to do all this. That's what I would say. Just put more ads on there. But it's public radio, so they look to the public to feed their belly. But yeah, you can't frown on them who does that. They do have a lot of megathons per year. I think it's like 3 or 4. And like weeks before the megathon now, they have a pre-megathon where they tell people, hey, you don't like our Megathon? Well, if you just do it early, maybe that will cut down some of the time of our Megathon. It never really does. They still beg. They still have Megathons for days and days. But anyways, everyone needs money, so I can't fault them on that one. But if you're not a supporter of NPR or stuff like that, then don't support them. If you support them, that's great. But I don't know nothing really. Like, I'm tired and jittery at the same time. It's a weird feeling I have going on right now. I drank so much coffee that I might have a headache. Maybe I'll drink some water when I get home. Take a Tylenol and just lay down. So let's talk about other news while they're doing their little Megathon thing. So I downloaded Mitomo. I think that's how you pronounce it. Japanese little me characters. I shouldn't say Japanese because I might offend people. Nintendo in Japanland released their first social media app for the iOS and Android, and it's called Mitomo. And I downloaded it. It connects to your other social medias, tries to find friends on Facebook and Twitter. I found a couple of those people. Then I started encouraging people to follow me on Twitter, because that was a big thing, to follow people on Twitter. So yeah, follow me on Twitter at BOOBEEE. That's 3 E's and 2 O's. So it's 2 B's, 2 O's, 3 E's. Booby at Booby. And if you follow me, I'll follow you back. That's the deal, and then we can be Tomo friends. But do this quickly. Don't hesitate on doing this. Don't be like, I listened to this video and I'm not gonna do it right now, because I found out today that there is a limit on how many Mitomo friends I can have. You're like, well, you'll never reach that limit, right? That's not true. I will reach that limit. As of today, I have 300 friends. I said, wow, that's a lot of friends on Mitomo. The limit is 1,000. So I still have some spots, but get in there while you can. Pretty soon I'm gonna have to be deleting people, and the first to go are the people that aren't following me on Twitter, because there's quite a few of those. If I'm not friends with you on Facebook and we're not following each other on Twitter, then you're probably gonna get X'd out of my list. Unless you're very engaging, then otherwise you're out of there. I have to be selective because that's all I got. All I got is 1,000. And I'm coming up to 6,000 YouTube people, friends. 6,000 YouTube friends, and so that's just even a quarter of my YouTube people. So once this gets out on my major channels, right now it's on my secondary channel. It's not gonna reach that many people, but get on that list now, because once it does get on the primary channel, it might be too late to become Mitomo friends with me. Maybe I'll make an exception if you really need a Mitomo friend. My character has a very silly voice. It is kind of funny. It's very squeaky and very low at the same time. Very robotic. I guess all the voices are very robotic, but either way, add me while you still can. already gave you my Twitter handle, so it should be pretty easy from there. If you know how to tweeter, then tweeter me up, and I'll tweeter you back, and then we'll be Mitomo friends. Also, Mitomo, my significant other. Yeah, again, we only have limited spots, so get in there while you can. Once you start following me, looking at my tweets, you should be able to find a tweeter of her tweeter, and I plug her in there. Follow us both. Some exciting times for Twitter. There might be an actual use for it now. Nintendo continues this connectivity with Twitter. I know the company was almost dead in the water as far as like not making any money, but this should really help them. I don't know how Twitter makes money anyways. Advertisements maybe? I don't know. I don't really... Oh. Well, I do have ad block enabled on my Twitter, so maybe that's why I don't see the ads. But I don't know really how Twitter makes money. Maybe licensing deals? I don't know. If you work at Twitter and you know how Twitter makes money, hit me up. Reply to this video, maybe, if you ever see it. Maybe I'll add some Twitter people on my LinkedIn. I'll add some Twitter people and ask them Twitter questions. Like, how does Twitter make money? So I noticed there's a lot of YouTube employees, but they're mostly content creators, and finding a real YouTube employee is kind of hard. I did find a couple, but I doubt they'll actually listen to me if I complain to them about my YouTube problems. But it's worth a shot. I recommend looking for the talent. What were they called? Ooh, this is gonna bug me now. Content creator. Oh, they're like support for content creators. Support. Whatever. Something support for content creators or whatever. But you find those guys, and then you get their email via the LinkedIn or whatever, and then you just harass them every time you get a strike. That's how I'm gonna go do it from here on out. My primary channel is almost back up and running, so I'm not gonna do it for this strike. The next time I get a strike, we're just gonna harass everybody that works at YouTube and message them on LinkedIn. Like, hey, check out my channel, I got a strike, I think this is an error. Because they won't issue me one of the support people, like my own personal support person. They won't issue me that, but you can just find them on LinkedIn and bug them. Since YouTube doesn't want to give any kind of people responses and actual support, you just have to stock YouTube employees to get anything done, I guess. That's the plan anyways. See how it works out. Here, let's check in with the Megathon, see how they're doing.
And then stopped talking about his wife's platform and began engaging with them. He passionately defended his time in the White House, in particular his tough-on-crime legislation that critics say inflated the country's prison population.
I talked to a lot of African-American groups. They thought Black Lives Matter. They said, take this bill because our kids are being shot in the street by gangs. We have 13-year-old kids.
He's getting heckled the entire time he's talking.
2 stops Bill Clinton had scheduled for the day in Pennsylvania. The state's primary is in 3 weeks. For NPR News, I'm Bobby Allen in Philadelphia.
FBI Director James Comey says talks are continuing about whether to share details of how the FBI was able to break into an encrypted iPhone as part of an investigation into the San Bernardino terror attack. It would only say the FBI purchased the tool that allowed the phone to be cracked from an outside party and balked at providing law enforcement with a backdoor key to the phone, claiming doing so would potentially jeopardize security on all of the company's devices. On Wall Street today, stocks lost ground. The Dow was down 174 points. This is NPR. Indiana Governor Mike Pence is expressing confidence the state's new abortion law is constitutional, notwithstanding a new legal challenge from the American Civil Liberties Union and Planned Parenthood. Pence's press secretary, in a statement saying the governor will work with the state attorney general to defend the law which seeks to ban abortion sought by women because of genetic abnormalities. It will also mandate an aborted fetus be buried or cremated. A rare and previously unknown original copy of William Shakespeare's first folio has been authenticated. This one of the world's most sought-after books, unexpectedly was found in a home on the Scottish island of Bute. Miller reports it was only discovered during an inventory of the house.
There have been many forgeries over the years, so when Mount Stewart House in Butte claimed to have a first folio, Emma Smith, professor of Shakespeare Studies at Oxford University, was skeptical. But after inspecting the 3-volume goatskin-bound book, she agreed it was authentic. The first folio, published 7 years after the bard's death in 1623, is the first collected edition of all Shakespeare's plays, without which there'd be no copy of Macbeth, Twelfth Night, Julius Caesar, The Tempest, and other works. Around 750 copies were printed and just 230 are known to have survived. One of those was sold to Oxford in 2003 for around $5 million. For NPR News, I'm Larry Miller in London.
In Virginia, Power is working to bring down the cost of 2 proposed research wind turbines that are 25 miles out in the Atlantic. The company says it would be an important step toward eventually developing a wind farm on 113,000 acres of ocean water. The company says it's been able to bring the cost down to between $300 million and $308 million. This is NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include AT&T, with a network and solutions for helping companies sense and adapt to meet the demands of business. AT&T. Discover the power of
there's the commercials. Let's not listen to those. All these people. See, NPR still has commercials. It's brought to you by AT&T and Florida Power and Light. These guys aren't putting enough money, so we don't have to freaking donate every 3 months. It's rubbish, NPR. Not that I'm saying anything bad about them, but it's all rubbish. Let's listen to more commercials. Like, NPR has lots of commercials. This is a commercial. Let's hear another commercial.
From WB.
Alright, so maybe it has less commercials than average, but it still has commercials.
You come up with something new in the marketplace, loves it. You make a killing. Pretty soon, others jump in to compete with you with similar or better copies of the product. That drives down your profits, but that's okay. You live another day to innovate again or buy a yacht. Well, a lot of Americans, a lot of voters on both sides of the political divide think that's not happening anymore. They say the economy is rigged for entrenched corporations, rigged against new competitors. And guess what? Some new research says they're right. This hour on point, the erosion of competitive American free enterprise. You can join us on air or online, where this conversation is always on. What do you see? Do the big dogs have it all locked up? Why and how? We're 1-800-423-8255. That's 800-423-TALK. Or join us anytime at onpointradio.org or on Twitter and Facebook at OnPoint Radio. Before we jump into why American corporate profits are at such high levels and just staying there, there's a related story that's been in the news we want to look at. The federal government's new rules on tax inversion. Now, the rules have just killed a merger between American pharmaceutical giant Pfizer and the smaller Ireland-based firm. Joining me now from New York is Renee Merle, financial reporter for the Washington Post. Renee, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
This was coming and coming and coming forever, and Pfizer talked a lot about how great it would be for business and for efficiency and so on. One new law comes out of Washington, and the whole thing's dead. What has just happened?
Well, when Pfizer
Pfizer announced that they were to be merging with Allergen, they did emphasize that this merger made strategic sense. That this wasn't just about lowering their taxes, but by moving to Ireland, which is what Pfizer would have done in this acquisition, they would have moved their headquarters to Ireland. They would have been able to have a lower tax rate. They would have had access to a lot of foreign profits that they have now and can't use. But the company really emphasized that this was all about strategic synergies.
But doesn't that seem like a joke now? I mean, 2 days after the news, the thing, it's gone. It's done, dead.
It was really amazing how quickly this happened, especially since Pfizer's been so vehement in saying this wasn't about the taxes. But what happened is that late Monday night, the Treasury Department released some new regulations related to inversions. This is the third time that they've taken a look at the issue of inversions. That's U.S. companies moving overseas to lower their taxes. And this time, they made a direct hit. These rules, at least one of the rules that they released, appeared almost to be written specifically to end the Pfizer Allergen deal. Kind of rewrote the way that you look at these companies once they merge, and made it more difficult for them to achieve the tax savings that they wanted. And so I know that as soon as the rules came out, they started to huddle with their attorneys, and within 24 to 36 hours, they realized they wouldn't be able to get the tax advantages that they had expected, and so they decided to leave.
You say it's about U.S. companies moving overseas, but let's be very, very clear about that. It's moving their registered home overseas, but in fact, most of them keep the huge portion of their operations, even their headquarters, in the United States.
It would have been completely possible, and I believe in the Pfizer deal that he had even said that yes, their headquarters would have been in Ireland, but their CEO would have still been in the U.S. Most of their high-level management team would have still been in the U.S. They would have still kept most of their U.S. operations going. It's just that by moving their headquarters there, sometimes it just means like changing the address on a piece of paper.
President Obama has been campaigning against this for some time, and he was talking yesterday about the new rules and why they're important. Of course, this, as Pfizer said, okay, we won't do it now.
Yes, so yesterday, on Tuesday, it was really amazing. It's very rare that you would see President Obama come out and talk about a corporate tax issue, to get into the weeds of the corporate tax code. And it was, and it made it just evident that the Obama administration wasn't going to relent. So, there were people who expected that Pfizer could fight the rules. Treasury really pushed the boundaries of its regulatory authority in writing these rules. And so some people said perhaps they could, sue and try to get the rules overturned. But once President Obama came out and called this loophole one of the most insidious tax loopholes out there, I think that kind of made you realize that this was going to be an easy fight, even if they wanted to.
Here's the president yesterday, Renee.
When companies exploit loopholes like this, it makes it harder to invest in the things that are going to keep America's economy going strong for future generations. It sticks the rest of us with the tab, and it makes hardworking Americans feel like the deck is stacked against them.
So they may end this one. It looks like they will, this particular inversion, but there have been a lot of them, and of course, no doubt many more companies have planned to do it. Do you expect legal challenges down the road? And where's Congress in this? Why is this being done just by Treasury regulation and not by law?
Well, let's start with Congress. Both Republicans and Democrats agree that this is an issue that needs to be tackled. They realize that the U.S. corporate tax code is just a mess, and that they need to address it. The U.S. currently has the highest tax rate, 35%, in the developed world. And everybody realizes it's very competitive. There's a reason for the business community to be upset about the current corporate tax code. But Congress just hasn't been willing or able to get its act together and do anything about it. And now the chances of them doing anything this year are pretty much dead because of the presidential election. But it's, tackling the corporate tax code is just a really complicated task, and Congress just hasn't mustered the will to take it on in a serious way.
For now, a Treasury regulation will stand, it looks like, at least in the case of Pfizer, in the way of relocating at least its corporate registration abroad. Renee Merle, you're terrific with the Washington Post financial reporter there out of New York. Thank you so much for joining us for a minute, Renee.
Oh, thank you.
Joining me now, also from New York, is Patrick Fowles. He is U.S. business editor and New York bureau chief at The Economist. And he is author of a recent cover story, a very interesting one, called The Problem with Profits. saying that too many American firms have sewn up positions in the economy that are not open enough to challenge, that American free enterprise is looking less free and more rigged. You can find a link at our website, onpointradio.org. Patrick Fowles, welcome to On Point. Thanks very much for being here.
Hi, Tom. A pleasure to be with you.
I really want to go just kind of with a fine-tooth comb through your argument here. I mean, the leader, the editorial at the front of The Economist, fronting the big piece that you've written on this, says America used to be the land of opportunity and optimism, but opportunity often now seen as the preserve of the elite, that 2/3 of Americans think the economy is rigged in favor of vested interests. Talking about optimism that has turned to anger, fury behind the insurgencies of Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders. And you say there are reasons for this. Something has gone kind of off the rails in terms of the competitive quality of the American economy.
Well, that's right. I mean, when we were writing this article, the two things informed us really. One was the political debate in the US, and as you said, there's a lot of talk from Bernie Sanders, from Hillary Clinton, occasionally even from Donald Trump about the economy being rigged in favor of a few well-connected companies. The other thing that's happening is the economy itself is not performing very well. It's sluggish, it's lethargic, it's not fast enough, it's not dynamic enough. And we took those two things and tried to see whether there was a connecting theme. And what we came up with was that competition, the lifeblood of America and the thing that the world admires America for, had ebbed. The rate, the pace, the intensity of competition had declined over the last couple of decades. And that's a really big thing to worry about.
What's the evidence that you've found of that? I mean, you talk about politicians, looking at free trade deals, looking at Wall Street recklessness, but if competition has waned, how does it show up?
Well, the number one symptom is very high profits relative to historical levels. And I should start by saying that high profits, some people may think are an integral part of capitalism, but actually it's not as simple as that. Very high persistent profits can be evidence that the economy is not competitive enough. And in your introduction, you mentioned this idea that if there's creative destruction taking place, an entrepreneur should come up with a good idea, make a ton of money, but pretty quickly find that someone else is competing his profits away. So if on an economy-wide level profits are really high, it may be a sign there's not enough competition. So what's the evidence that that is the case? Well, one, profits to GDP are at a very high level relative to the 100-year historical trend. Two, the returns on capital that companies make, so the profits relative to the amounts they have invested, are also at the highest level since the Second World War. And the last bit of evidence is that the persistence of profits has risen. So in the 1990s, if you were a really profitable firm, you had about a 50% chance of still being profitable a decade later. If you look at more recent times, that probability has risen to about 80%. So it's become easier to make a ton of money for a long time.
What is the problem with this? Is it just concentrating? We've heard about these huge profits. We've heard about cash just stacked up, a lot of it not being used, perhaps how it might be. But what are the deleterious effects when you get very historically high and persistent profits that may be indicating a lack of competition?
Well, so why might profits be a bad thing in this case? I mean, the most obvious thing is if they're symptomatic of monopolies who are able to make too much money. But high profits, if companies are making abnormally large amounts of money, it means prices are too high for consumers. Our estimates are that if profits fell to more normal levels and all of that was passed through to the American consumer, prices would fall by about 2% for everyone. And if companies are hoarding profits, it can also be bad for economic growth, because instead of investing the money they make in new projects, they cling on to it, and there's no pressure from new entrants or competitors to invest more. And that could be one explanation for why the economy is so sluggish. So high profits in aggregate can be painful in several different ways.
There have been all kinds of calls for different ways to change the economy in this American election campaign season. from Donald Trump and others looking at free trade. Bernie Sanders talking about all kinds of interventions here. We've got Patrick Fowles with The Economist, U.S. business editor and New York bureau chief, saying, look to the fundamental level of competition in this economy. There may be a problem right there. Patrick Fowles, please stand by in New York. It's so great to have you today. We really want to dive in here. Listeners, you can join us. Do you see the argument, the problem, that our powerful corporations may now face too little competition from challengers, upstarts, that they're getting fat, happy, and protected somehow? 800-423-8255 is our number. 800-423-TALK. What do you see? I'm Tom Ashbrook. This is On Point. We'll be right back.
Alright guys, there's some music that we can't be playing on the thing, and there's the thing there. So, thanks for watching this video that I made. It's been a good video. There's some downtime I had there. But as I told you in the beginning of the video, I'm not feeling that great. Tired / jittery, so you get what you pay for, people. You get what you pay for. So yeah, that's it. Peace out.